Hi, this is Max, and welcome to another Stoa. I think we can all agree that we, in life, you and I, are always seeking to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? I just want to be happy. And most of the time, we are our worst own enemy when it comes to our happiness. It's like we get in our way. And I'd like to talk about that today because it is not true that you get to be your worst own enemy for the rest of your life. You can tame that voice, you can let it go, and you can transform yourself so that you are happier longer and most of the time. So let's talk about that. Now, the first thing I guess we need to talk about when it comes to being our worst own enemy and seeking happiness is an illusion, is a myth. And the illusion is as follows. When you are into a situation where you're facing a difficult person, or you're in a difficult circumstance where you don't feel okay, right? It always starts with a few thoughts or maybe an emotion, and they tend to work together. You get a bad thought, negative thought, you get a weird emotion going on, and they fuel each other. And you just get into this cycle of, I call it the vicious spiral or the vicious cycle, where you go down and bad thinking comes up and bad negative emotions and thinking, and they fuel on each other. Not a good place to be, right? Well, if you believe that if the person would change or if the situation would be different, then I would get to feel differently and be happy again, I would argue not true. You might want to think about that a little bit longer, or review this perspective. Because in one way, yes, if that would be different, maybe you'd feel okay again and touch that happiness that you're striving for or seeking. But it wouldn't be long lasting. It would be momentarily. And I mean, are you a hedonistic creature? You're only seeking, momentarily pleasures, and then it fades away, and then you get to work hard to get back into a state of happiness? Or would you rather have something that lasts, that is present with you, and that you can savor every moment? If I get to choose, I'd pick the latter. So how do we get there? Well, let's start by using two dynamics that have been really helpful for me in the past. And they're coming from a great author that I befriended. His name is David Emerald. He wrote a book called The Power of TED. And David based his work on not only personal experiences, but also a psychological approach developed in the 60s, I believe, the Karpman Triangle. And he worked it out in his own fashion in a way that makes total sense for me. I hope it does for you. So David says there's two dynamic that you can be within for yourself in life. The first one is what he calls the DDT, the dreaded drama triangle. In this triangle, you get to be kind of three personas. The first one, you're a victim. Why me? Always me? Why is this happening again? Poor me, poor me, poor me. Not a very empowering way to live your life. The second stance is one of a persecutor. If you point a finger at someone, or you put them down, or you think that X, Y, and Z is the reason why you feel like that, and you make them feel it, you're a persecutor. And don't forget, when you're pointing the finger at someone, there's three fingers pointing at you. So not a good place to be as well. And the last one is being a rescuer. You're attempting to save others. And I know this one pretty well because I've been one of them. Well, when you're a rescuer, when you're trying to save people, not only you're not seeing them as who they truly are, but you're not helping. You think you are, but you're not. You're not helping them. And as far as you, well, you're only playing out an expression of who you are. Right? I'm attempting to save somebody else because I think I did not be saved myself, or I don't believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So these three are a dynamic that David calls the dreaded trauma triangle. I call this a vicious spiral. You know, if you get to play in there, you're not in a good place for yourself and anybody else. That applies at home, at work, as a leader, as a mom, as a dad, whatever. The second dynamic is one called, for David, the TED dynamic, the empowerment dynamic. That's what TED stands for. I call this the virtuous spiral. When you get to be a creator, that's the first one in this dynamic. When you know who you truly are, when you believe in your own powers, and you know you can get out of any situations you're in by tapping into your rationale, your virtues, your values, your pure essence also, if you want to get on the metaphysical side a little bit, you're acting out the creator in you. That's beautiful. That's very empowering. That's strong. If you're not a creator, you can be a challenger. So instead of pointing fingers and being a persecutor in the other dynamic, a challenger will try to lift up people by challenging them, being the creator that they can be, and stepping up their game, whatever it is, or they're trying to help. They're not bringing down the other, they're trying to bring it up. And finally, the third persona you can be in this dynamic is a coach. By inspiring, by guiding, by supporting, being a coach to the other. You know that they are a creator, and with a little bit of guidance and help, they can get back on their feet and reconnect with who they are in happiness. Two very different dynamics. One is very stinky and doesn't get you anywhere, nor does it help anybody get anywhere. And the other one is very empowering. That's where you get to live a very fulfilling and rich life. I don't know for you, but if you would ask me, I'd rather live in the latter one for sure. Now let's get real with this. Now let me give you an example of the two dynamics at play. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I was at the bureau here for my driver's license. I needed to renew it or change it because forever there has been a misspell in my name, and I never changed it, but finally I said, let me do this. So I get there, I get an appointment many weeks in advance, and I get there on the D-Day, and it wouldn't allow me to do the change because I didn't have 2 pieces of ID with me. I even suggested maybe a picture of a second piece of ID. That wouldn't fly by either. So I had to leave. So what if I'm playing a DDT dynamic here? What if I'm in a vicious spiral? Well, what can happen? Well, first of all, you get to the counter and you say, you get to hear, no, we won't do this for you. You'll have to come back. Well, maybe I have a negative thought going on right away, where I get a little bit tight here, in my stomach or in my heart. There's a weird feeling going on. Well, if I cling on to it, obviously nothing good is gonna come out. Nothing good is gonna come out of it, right? I might start arguing. I might start trying to make my way through. I might start, even accusing them of doing a poor job. I might feel very bad, obviously, inside. I might even, knock my own head and be very harsh with me. None of that will help me. and I'm being a victim, and I'm maybe pointing fingers, and I'm just operating in that vicious spiral. Very stinky, if you ask me. On the other end, if you've done the work to use situations like this in your own life, to operate in the other spiral, virtuous one, and the empowerment dynamic, well, you get to choose your response. Okay, here's what's the deal here today, and I'm gonna have a reaction, facing this. What is it gonna be? If you get to choose your response wisely, and you get to act out the creator in you, well, what can go wrong? I mean, heck, maybe you even become a little bit creative, which I did. I said, okay, I understand. I tried to present, alternatives or, options so that maybe this could work on the spot. It wouldn't work. Okay, fine. It's a beautiful day. I'm gonna walk back home, get that second piece of ID. It's gonna be a little bit of exercise on top of it. Nice. And then I figured out a way to come back without an appointment. They agreed and even said, you can skip the line and we'll see you right away. All right, perfect. When you leverage those opportunities and you get to be a creator, or a challenger, a coach in those situations, happiness can't be far away. It is right there. I always say joy is always there. Happiness is always there. It's like the sun. It's always shining. Sometimes you just lose sight of it because there's a few clouds that are going by. But if you get to recenter yourself and reconnect with that creator that you are, you'll remember that the sun is still shining. Who cares what those those little clouds? And you'll do what's right. You'll just be a good human being. How can you not feel happiness and joy when you do that? So I hope this helps and that it brought a little bit of perspective when it comes to being your worst own enemy. And remember to always play out, always choose to be a creator, a challenger, or a coach. That way, you always get to experience life to its fullest and live in a very beautiful, empowering, rich, flourishing way. I trust you and the beautiful human being that you are. Your beautiful soul. Let it shine. All right? All right. Cheers. Thank you. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.